All right, everybody. Another episode. Kyle, haven't we had enough of these? Do we really need to do 2 Remodelers on the Rise live shows a week? The people seem to enjoy it, Todd.
Absolutely. I know I do.
Good. You're not just saying that because you're a guest. You actually do?
I do.
Okay, good. Good. We are doing another live show, and I have a guest with me from the Pacific Northwest, Todd Schulte. And how do you pronounce it if you were German? What did you say?
Schulte.
Schulte. But we have
Schulte.
Americanized it, Schulte Design Build. And Todd and I have talked with each other for approximately 9.5 minutes. I've seen his name, I've seen his face pop up because however long ago he became part of the Remodelers Community Facebook group. If you're listening to this recording through the podcast, if you go to remodelerscommunity.com, you can be part of arguably an amazing group. Just a lot of people that are willing to share. And I posted something last week that said, hey, I've got a couple shows this upcoming week, and I would love to have a guest or two. And Todd raised his hand and shot me a message and said, there's a thing that we've been working hard on, which is about getting my production team involved in estimating hours. Getting my production team involved early in the process when we're still estimating a project, getting them involved and helping us estimate the hours. And there's a lot we've learned through that. There's a lot that we've been beneficial, a lot of benefits of that. And it's just kind of an interesting thing that makes a ton of sense to me and that you're doing and that you wanted to share with the group. So thank you for being willing to do that, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to share.
So give me a little bit of your maybe just a quick little. We're design build remodeler. We're X amount of team, whatever you want to share about just kind of the structure of your business, so people kind of understand that, and then kind of share where did this idea come from? How did you start doing this?
Okay, yeah. So Schulte Design Build started out about 20 years ago. We're a residential remodeling company. We went to the design build model probably about 5 years ago for a number of reasons. So I'm the classic carpenter turned contractor. And we do, like I said, mostly residential remodeling, kitchens, baths, additions, kind of full service. And typically we're doing anywhere from 15 to 20 projects a year. Okay. Which we're doing on actually, I have to say, we're quite lean machine right now. I mean, we've got 4 carpenters in the field, a production manager, myself, and then an office person. And then we have a design team that we outsource to for all that side of the work. So we're pretty lean for the amount of work we're pushing through.
Yeah. What's your average job size?
Right now they're in the probably $200,000 to $300,000 job size, right, and that's always so hard to gauge across the country because our market is so crazy that may not, that may sound like it more than it really is. Yeah. You don't get a lot for your money anymore.
Right. Okay, and then so this concept of getting some of your production team involved, and here it's even already more interesting just the way you set that up. Your team is busy. You've got production that needs to happen. You've got every hour that they're not in the field producing, and let's say they're in the office helping with estimating, there's an opportunity cost there. So you're making an investment when you do this. Where did this idea come from, and how did it kind of start?
Well, so this idea, kind of my light bulb moment was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, where I was just struggling, frustrated with all it takes to put a project together in estimating. And just the light bulb kind of went off. I thought, I think I'd come back from a roundtables meeting I had, and that was discussed. And I just, how can I get
Remodelers Advantage?
I was, yeah. Cool. So, the light bulb was off. Is how can I, take advantage of the team I have and to help me? And then it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, gosh, the production team. I just kind of thought of them as just like a trade contractor, right? Like, who else better than that's going to, who knows better that what's going to take to build a project than my team, my production team.
Sure.
So I'm just like, hey, I'm going to get them involved early. Even if I'm initially putting the numbers together, let's all come together as a team and review this and see how real this really is. It's the old adage, the older I get, the better I was. So, and as everybody, as your team is, you're only as good as your team, right? So, why not take advantage of that?
Yeah.
And
And if you,
they're our greatest asset as well as our greatest liability, right?
sure. And if you're estimating hours based on what you used to do and based on the speed at which you worked, and versus thinking about your team, and remodeling continues to get more complicated and more difficult. So practically speaking, what does this look like? You're putting together an estimate, you're getting some numbers together, and then you're bringing in one of your lead carpenters, you're bringing in a couple folks.
Yes. So typically it's myself, and so I'm the salesperson, and I do a lot of the estimating and the management of the design pre-construction phase. So me and my production manager, we'll do some initial numbers, and then we'll bring in whatever lead carpenter that we're going to assign to that particular project. We'll bring them on once we get that all established, and let them spend some time getting acquainted with the project. Typically we'll have a scope of work written, we'll have some plans, and that we'll give them as much time as they need, depending on the project. It could be anywhere from half a day to 8 hours plus easily for a bigger job, for them to wrap their brain around it, kind of make their notes,
Wow.
think
Time
about
out.
things like that. Yep.
Time out. What I had in my head was a cute little meeting. We put an estimate together, bring them in. Hey, what do you think of this? Ask some questions, half hour, 40 minutes, kind of think through it. Yeah, it sounds about right. You just blew me away of saying, like, we're taking this serious. I want them to really dissect this and really understand the product. It could be a half a day.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Well, and the other advantage of that is it gets more buy-in, more investment.
Yeah.
They bring up any potential issues that they may see with the job, like how are we going to get this material up to the second floor, up these stairs? Like, did you really think about what that's gonna look like, right? Like all the things that I don't think necessarily are thinking about when I'm putting numbers together. I'm just thinking, how long does it take to trim out a window, right? Versus all the other things that go into that, right?
Yep.
Or so the other thing too is it's transferring that information to them early on, so when they show up, they've already got a good understanding of what they're going to do and how this is going to look.
Another advantage of charging for design and project development as well. Your close rate on these projects are very high, so some of that carryover of, wow, we've already done a lot of pre-construction planning and work. That's
Absolutely.
An interesting thought. When I think of 4 to 6 hours of production that they're investing in this, it's already paying itself off because we're estimating more better and stronger and more properly.
Absolutely.
But go upstream a little bit more, and it's already given us advantage when we started.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're starting ahead outside right out the gate, right? Because they're not spinning their wheels trying to figure it out. They're on site, dealing with all those issues, and then coming to us and say, gosh, this wasn't estimated. We didn't figure out nearly enough time to do this because of X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're noticing? One, I bet you're probably getting to be a better estimator just by having those other sets of eyes on it. But how big of a discrepancy are you finding between what you've been estimating versus what they're kind of generally wanting to estimate? I'm guessing they're just packing in the hours so that they can look good in it. No, that's a fear of this, but that's not reality.
Yeah, so certainly that is a fear that I had, like, and some of our clients have that same fear. Well, if if they tell me what it's going to take, they're just going to pad their hours. But the reality is we go through it all together as a team, and if there's, I make them state their case. If there's something that I think doesn't jive, like, tell me why you think it's going to be that long, or why it's going to be that way. And we'll give and take depending on what it is. I mean, we'll go through line item by line item, and if there's some discrepancy or something that we're not comfortable with, or we think is maybe shouldn't take that long, we have the conversation. They got to sell me on it, right?
Yeah. So are we talking like, well, this one's another 2 hours, we just forgot that? You're just finding a lot of little things, and
a lot of little things, yeah, and then just adding it. And then the other thing too is they've got to feel comfortable with what we're all agreeing to, because we're making this promise to these clients, and to ourselves, so it's successful for all of us. So how else do you do that in this complex business that we do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge, and that's the only way I've found that makes sense. And I will say, since we started doing this, our jobs have been more profitable. We've had less grippage and slippage than we ever have in the past. So it's working.
In particular, less slippage. Well, even
Yes.
both. Like, I was like, well, slippage, but you even said also less grippage there, because there's
Right.
some times where you're like, they might look at it and go, Todd, that's way more than we even need.
Right.
Right. It's just more accurate.
Right. I mean,
So
I have my production team. They'll tell me like they're like, and I'm the salesperson, right? So when I'm involved, I've got to sell this to the client. So, they've told, there's been the conversations like, hey, Todd, this is what it's going to cost to build this. You can charge them whatever you want, but we're telling you this is what it's going to take to build this. So it's up to you. You
So
decide.
I want you to. It's not going to make for a good show, but I want you to repeat the line you just used a minute ago 15 times until people are like, okay, enough. You said, since we started doing this, we have been, I don't know if you said exactly like this, but correct me if I'm wrong. We have been more profitable and we've seen less slippage and grippage. Is the more profitable part? That's fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. So rewind the clock. Came back from a meeting. I got to get better at estimating. I've got to get my numbers under control. We've got way too much slippage. Probably at that point, too much slippage.
Absolutely.
I'm not watching my job costing as much. I've got my actual versus estimated. We've got to get our crap together here. Light bulb goes off. Who better than my team? Instead of like, this doesn't need to be adversarial. If you as the salesperson or the owner of the remodeling business and your team in the field are always bumping heads like, well, you didn't put enough time in this. Bo Schembechler,
right.
the team. We're wearing the same jerseys, people. We're on the same team here. So you had this light bulb moment. You get them involved. You're investing heavily in it of time and energy. Oh, by the way, you're saving hours downstream. Oh, by the way, you're more accurate and you're going to be more profitable. So I would argue that 6 hours in the office with so-and-so and so-and-so is making you money, not costing. That's a mind shift for people listening to this. And
Absolutely.
The reality at the end of the day is we're more profitable. We're more confident in our numbers. We haven't even talked about what I'm going to ask you next. I bet you your job costing is way more interesting to the team in the field, and everybody in your business wants to know about how are we doing. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. They understand why we go through all of this process so that we can look back at it and know how we've done and how it affects the company and them, right? So absolutely, yeah. I mean, why should they bother cost coding their time and tracking it accurately out in the field? Well, let's look at these numbers and these reports and I can tell you exactly why. Right. And it helps us get even better, to your point earlier about, looking at historical data, right? Because then, bad numbers in, bad numbers out. So it really gets them a lot more focused on the right things and why we do what we do the way we do it. Absolutely.
I've got to just sit in this. One, we haven't gotten but one, although sometimes the likes don't show up, but I would like some comments from the people watching. I'd like maybe a like or something, because this is a fresh, good, wonderful idea. It's a different way of looking at it. I think there's people that will listen to it live, listen to the recording, listen to the podcast, that'll kind of catch their attention. But I just want to sit more and more in this job costing aspect of it.
Sure.
The difference, and maybe before, people have heard me say it, so I won't say it right now. I'll have you say it. Todd, why is job costing so important? What is that? Ooh, see, I asked for a couple likes and we got a few there. Hi, Gerald. Hi, John. Good. Todd, why is job costing so important as a business owner of a remodeling business?
Well, you can't, what is this saying? You can't.
I'll help you out. You got to give me a little bit more than that, though.
Yes. How can you measure what you don't track, right?
What gets measured gets improved.
And improved, absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, I was struggling for the words there.
I got your back, man. I got your back.
Thank you. That's exactly right. So that's a big reason why they're so important. And if you're not tracking it, how do you know if you made any money? How do you know how accurate you are with your, and the team is with estimating hours? Did the trades actually bill you what they told you they were going to bill you? Is there any costs in there that shouldn't be in there that were a surprise? Oh, there's a, we always look for zeros in either estimated or actuals, because that's a red flag. What was coded? Was it miscoded? Was it something that got done in the field that we didn't know about and should have been a change order? Right. Yep. All those things. It's super important.
Yes, all of those things. you become a better estimator. You can find change orders. Getting the team involved in the future, the jobs are going to be stronger. Another statement that I would just add, I was almost more of a blanket over the top of it, is there's too many of you listening to this that, whether it is 4% net profit, whether it is 3% net profit, whether it's 6% net profit, if you want to make more money in your remodeling business, take job costing extremely serious. I don't have the time. No. My team in the field won't code things properly. No, not acceptable.
Right.
If you want to make a crappy living, if you want to be frustrated, if you want to not make the money that you should be making for the effort and the work that you put in, okay, then go ahead and continue to not care about job costing. But if you want to actually make money, be a better estimator, better remodeler, a more profitable remodeler, you've got to take job costing seriously. And it doesn't have to be crazy complicated.
No,
it's very practical.
It doesn't. I mean, we've been job costing for a long time. Hence, that's how we knew we weren't making money out other than me not having any money in the bank. Right.
Yeah.
And then we were able to adjust and figure out how to get better.
Todd, next time you watch one of my live shows, if you catch it live, comment, right? I want you to comment. Let me know you're there, because I have to drag people out. Now we're getting some comments. People, comment. This is
Perfect.
Good stuff. This is good stuff.
I'll remember that.
Yes. That goes for everybody. If you see a post and you're like, that's really good, give it a little like, give it a little comment, because if you don't like it, Facebook goes, oh, 150 people have seen this and 2 people have liked it. Then they won't show it to the other 900 people in the community. So give me some love. I'm out here working hard, people. So Gerald said, I love this talk. For the life of me, I don't understand why so few contractors consult with the people doing the work to at the very least, check on their estimates. So what's your comments on that, on why people don't do that, Todd? And then I'll share also why.
I would say, I mean, we kind of touched on it already, is fear. The company owner's fear of their carpenters padding the hours and just making up their own thing, right, for the job, and then how am I going to sell it? That's not real, whatever, right?
Yep.
Something dropped there.
I just dropped. Well, it's my hacksmith, hacksmith opening thingamajigger.
Perfect. I love that. And then it's the taking the time to bring them out of production, right? It's lots of production hours.
Right. I would jump on that one.
Making the time.
It's making that time. I'm done with the whole I don't have time. You're not making the time. You're not prioritizing the time. And if you agree that you need to, then you have to figure out and get smart and get creative on how you can make the time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's with everything we do. When we slow down, and I'm speaking for me, when we slow down as a company and take the time to do what it really takes to make sure all this stuff is done and in place the right way, it makes everything, the whole company, more successful. The project, the clients, everyone's happier. I mean, it's tough, but that's what we've found, is to slow down and take the time it takes to do it correctly.
Yeah. Nancy says, it's very interesting. How do you get your guys into the office to work for a half day or for a few hours if they're scheduled to be in the field?
So we just schedule time for them to do that. Usually it's we just make them take an hour or two off of a job site, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days during the week. It's definitely a challenge, especially when we're pushing to get a job done.
Yep.
But again, that's just part of our process and our culture that we've created, and that's just normal.
Here's what I think is interesting about this topic, and I think people need to be reminded of this on a whole slew of topics, is that trying this approach out does not mean we're going to always do this all the time, and I'm going to burn 172 of my hours out in the field coming in the office.
It's not linear like that at all. So as an example, if we're in drywall in a job and there's nothing else for them to do on that particular project, and they've got an hour, they don't necessarily have to be in another job for a little while. We try to carve that time out to have them, come in and do that kind of stuff. Not necessarily come into the office, but they can do it out in the field even.
Yeah,
we have access to all the information.
Fair enough. And I hear what you're saying. Where I was going with it is just do it once. Don't even think about doing it a bunch of times. Literally one time on a Thursday afternoon, try this.
Right.
you're not commit. You don't have to commit to doing this
Right.
every week, every month, but just
Right.
try it. And I have a sneaky suspicion that if you try it once and you see the impact that it makes, and you see, and you even, you have to be smart to kind of see it play through, but you see how it's helped the overall project, you're going to go, huh, that Todd Schulte gave me a really good idea, and I think it's really smart, and maybe I should incorporate this more often in
Right.
my business. Find a halfway point, even if you do this on half the projects. I would say that, if you do this a few times, you're going to see a lot of benefit in a hurry. And then I would imagine that as we get better, you're going to be a better estimator. There's not going to be as much fluctuation, still enough to make it worth it. But I would imagine that
Right.
those first several projects are really going to move the needle.
Right. And then it's just a matter of they're spending less time. They're just, they can just review it and go, yes, this all makes sense, versus, them going through and seeing a lot of discrepancies in those estimates, going, oh God, this is way off. Right.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Another thing I asked you.
Yeah, I will say the only, one of the challenges for me, and I think I touched on this, is, now that we are providing real, what it really costs to do a project, I've got to go sell that now to the client, which can be challenging depending on the situation.
How much
right?
it changed, yeah.
Right.
And how do you have your job costing set up? Do you use a builder trend, a co-construct? What do you do?
No, we do all our job cost tracking through QuickBooks. So
Okay.
we've got cost codes, and then we build our estimates with those cost codes, and then they just transfer into QuickBooks, and that's how our reporting gets done.
Okay. And
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and do you take your estimate and set up a budget for that project in QuickBooks? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, budget, estimate, whatever you want to call it. That's correct.
So for everybody listening, certainly if you've got builder trend or co-construct dialed in, there's great ability to do job costing.
I mean, we use builder trend, but to build our estimates and all that with the cost codes in there. But again, we've just found that the reporting comes better through QuickBooks because we don't have it integrated for
and people
reasons.
Even if people don't have that integration or even aren't using builder trend or co-construct, if you're going to QuickBooks and you're getting all your labor hours to be applied to a specific project and a specific line item, demo, framing, etc., and if every invoice you have come in is going to a specific job, then you're halfway home. And the piece that a lot of people miss is if you just take you can set up a project budget in QuickBooks, and then you can run a budget versus actual in QuickBooks, and it really shows it really clearly.
Absolutely.
Feel free to read, if anybody's listening to this and they're stuck on that, feel free to reach out. I've got a couple of videos on that.
Yeah. We use CSI codes and then job code items or item codes.
Cool. And how do you guys track your time? Are you using like T-sheets or using
T-sheets? I think it's called something else now because QuickBooks owns them now. But yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. I think another interesting thing, I asked you this before we started, surely your guys must be getting, heavily incentivized or decentivized if they go over hours, under hours. And you said, we haven't even gone there yet. You're doing all of this work and it's not even related to, well, if you come in under hours, we're going to do this or whatnot. It's called, as a team, if we come in at hours or under hours or to get this accurate, we're a stronger business, we're a more profitable business, and that will just allow us to invest in our team more, whether it's benefits or pay. That's kind of been your approach.
That's right. I mean, one step at a time. Certainly, it's something that I've thought about. How do we get people more invested? Obviously, money is a motivator, and that's not the end all be all for a lot of folks. But things like if we have a good year, we would give everyone the week between Christmas and New Year's off paid, right? Mm-hmm. So as a bonus, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And by the way, if make sure people heard that. A lot of times you already are kind of trying to do some type of end of year bonus. A lot of times the year between Christmas and New Year's is kind of a junky, broken up, weird week. So to combine those two into one, you're probably already spending it in a bonus. You probably already have some time off. It really plays well together. I've had a bunch of clients who have started doing that, and they're like, it's so nice to just really, everybody to just really be able to kind of step back for a week plus,
right?
And they really appreciate it.
And I guess I'll just touch on the same thing on one more point, and that's the challenge that I've had in my thoughts about bonuses, profit sharing is how can it go both ways? Do you set up a pool where if a job's profitable, there's money that goes into it? If there's a job that's not, does it come out, right? So it's fair for both, for everybody, including the company, right? So there's got to be skin in the game, to be able to make that, I think, an equitable decision for
Hey Todd.
everybody.
Hey Todd. When you crack that code and figure out how to do that, let me know.
You'll be the first one I reach out to, Kyle.
It's
Okay.
just coaching hundreds of remodelers at this point. It's a topic that comes up often, and
I'm sure.
we go down rabbit holes sometimes of like, I think that might work. You know what? And then it's either
I haven't heard a show about it yet. I don't think.
you haven't, have you? It's either way too hard to track and to measure.
Right.
Is it really their fault that we ate money on that? There's this gray area. We end up,
Yes.
really incentivizing them on the plus, but it's hard to do that. It's almost
Right.
demotivating when we have to ping them on the negative.
Yes. Well, and this goes back to what I'm talking about is the more invested they are up front, I think the easier that's going to be to figure out, right? If and when we do get a system into place to be able to do that. Absolutely.
So I will say this: what I have seen work is not job by job, not month by month.
Right.
There's some interesting things that can happen when you do a little bit of a quarter by quarter. Let's take all of our projects over a quarter, and here's how we count if it's done or not. And if we exceeded our gross profit versus not exceeded, we share a certain amount. If this is our gross profit on a project on the set of projects over the quarter. Any additional gross profit that we ended up gripping, we share a percentage of that with the team.
Right.
Even that's already fairly complicated. So when you think about it,
well, we're remodelers. We love complicated things.
Yeah. So, the more I think about that topic, and we're just kind of segueing a little bit into that, how do we incentivize our team topic? You're training your team to think bigger picture, to not think what's in it for me on a job by job basis. You're teaching your team that if the business is profitable, we all do better. So that's a good basis. And I would almost caution against trying to incentivize it because it may make what you have going, kind of quirky. I have this viewpoint of each of your team members might want something different when it comes to bonuses. Some of them might want time off. Some of them might want cash, just flat out, bonus money. Some of them might be dreaming about that trip to Scotland and they've been with you for 20 years and you make that happen. Like there's a million different ways to go about it. Get to know your team, get to know what incentivizes them, and don't assume that it's just money. That's how I think about it. And I really, the other thing I also like is, how can you make it not just a once a year bonus? Now it becomes an expectation. How do we make this kind of quirky, fun, and random?
Right.
Here's $100 cash money because you guys have been kicking butt the last 2 weeks. Thank you.
Right.
Here's a $250 Cabela's gift card. Go have some fun. Or Friday afternoon, we're going to Cabela's. Here's $300. We're going to have a little shopping spree and we're going to have dinner. That's one of my clients did. Interestingly, now that I piece that together, one of my clients that did that had already tried trying to figure out the incentive, disincentive, and has switched to just this more organic and fun way of thinking about it.
Rewarding positive behavior.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thinking of the team.
And reminding them why it's important, right? That they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Well, this was wonderful. If anybody else has any quick questions or some takeaways from this little chat, we'd love that. And then Todd, I think we'll wrap up 1 minute early, which would be just fine. Especially a conversation about being on time, bringing things in, on time. I feel like it's appropriate for us to end a minute early. But the more I talk, the more we'll end on time, unfortunately. So share with me, if you would, as people kind of listen to this concept or heard this idea, what would be kind of the one main thing that you'd want to just really emphasize, that you'd want them to really hear in what we just talked about? And then I'll kind of share mine as well.
I mean, I'll go back to you're only as good as the team you have. So why not bring them and their value into the process of making a project successful that makes your company successful.
I love it. And I would say that this is one piece, a very key piece of the bigger conversation of job costing. I think I'm going to quadruple down on it. I think I'm going to get so loud and annoying about job costing that people will, how can I get so loud that remodelers who follow my work eventually just say, he's that guy that's always harping on job costing. He's always yelling about job costing, because what we're talking about here has to do where the rubber hits the road, the difference between you making good money and not making good money. And when I say good money, don't get it all twisted. I'm not talking about so we can buy boats, we can do this, we can do that. How about so that our stress level goes down? How about so that we have more money in our bank account that we don't have to freak out? How about we can offer better benefits to our team, that we
Right.
can have bigger bonuses. And yes, as an owner of a business, I can take more out of the business because I'm working hard and I'm working smart and I'm doing better. So this isn't just like a money grab, but
No.
job
Well,
costing.
you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
Until you know.
Yeah.
And then you
And
can do something about it or not.
bingo.
Right.
Bingo. Cool, man. Thank you so much for being willing to do this, for sharing your experience with it, and reach out anytime, and we'll cross paths again soon, I'm sure. And you're
All
going to
right.
like every post that I make that you
That's
see.
right.
So we got
Well, I
that.
might have to send you a hat too.
Will you?
I will.
You promise?
Yep.
Now, Todd, you
I know.
just publicly made a promise.
Publicly made a promise.
If I don't have that hat on my head within 2 weeks,
That's right.
everybody's going to be disappointed. And by the way, for everybody listening, I love to get all your hats. I was about to grab my stack of them, but I would be honored to wear one of your hats, sir.
I appreciate
All right.
that.
Thanks a lot.